Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 39th episode of the GCEC Virtual Connections. If you haven't watched the first 38, it's okay. We've got a 10-minute recap video coming up. Just kidding. Welcome. Today, we're going to talk about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, and that is student engagement and leadership. So my name is Jeff Reed. I'm the founding director of the Georgetown University Entrepreneurship Initiative and a member of the GCEC Advisory Board. Today, we are going to be joined by some wonderful award-winning schools to learn what they are doing that has helped them to earn these awards and just the great stuff they're doing. But first, a quick commercial for what GCEC is all about. In case you are new to our organization, the Global Consortium of Entrepreneurship Centers is just the absolute best way to learn about how to run an entrepreneur center. It's a community of peers who love to share with each other. And I know I've been attending these conferences and been a part of the organization for more than 25 years. So, and it's absolutely one of the most valuable things that I'm involved with. We have, in addition to these virtual connections webinars, we have a newsletter. We have at least one big annual conference and sometimes some other smaller events. And awards programs and just a new Slack channel, lots of great ways to learn from one another. So we encourage you to get involved. But now let's learn about student engagement and leadership. Our panel has been switched up just slightly today. And first from Arizona State, I believe we are not going to have Bailey, but I will turn over to Linda Ricciuti and to Lauren Dunning from Arizona State University. After they present, then we'll hear from Daniel with Stetson. So over to you, Lauren and Linda.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here, everybody. Thank you so much for having us. We had the amazing opportunity to win the large school version of this award. So we want to share with you a little bit about how ASU sets up kind of for success the students and how we work, how we lead kind of that program. So again, my name is Linda Ricciuti. I'm the executive director for the J. Orrin Edson Entrepreneurship and Innovation Institute. I'm joined by my colleague Lauren Dunning, who is the director of student outreach and engagement. So we're going to just pop through this quickly, and if you have questions, please use the chat. Our institute is large, and it's extra large, we like to say. It's about 190,000 students. So that's online and in person. So that creates incredible opportunity, and it creates incredible challenges at the same time. So one thing that keeps us very clear on how we do our work is to follow our ASU charter. I would say most of the people that work for ASU that belong to our ecosystem believe very, very strongly in this charter. It is literally written in stone on every one of our campuses. So it doesn't change, and it's our really guiding North Star. So ASU is really a comprehensive public research university. The difference is we're measured not by whom we exclude, but by whom we include and how they succeed. So we really track the advancing research, the discovery, things that are of public value, and we're assuming fundamental responsibility for economic, social, cultural, and overall health in the communities we serve. So our institute is firmly embedded in our communities and all of those connecting points. So I think it's really important to understand that as a large university, there are ways to shrink our service to a way that makes it feel personalized and customized and really connecting strongly in with our units. Now, part of one of our pieces is that we're a nationally ranked university. We're #1 in innovation for 10 years. That's obviously a big deal. It's on the buses that you see driving around Tempe. So it means something. We're a #1 public university in the United States. Global impact is a big deal. Sustainability is a big deal. All of this, though, is driven in large part through our entrepreneurial mindset. This university is an entrepreneurial university, and it is across the board. It's important to our president. It's a way that we engage at every level. So that's something really important to think through while we're sharing some of the specific things that we do with our students. So in this, we are a pan-university entrepreneurship center, meaning we serve across the university. We sit adjacent to our academic units. We are not degree granting. We do not sit inside the School of Business. We are literally an independent entity. And that's interesting because we sit a little bit outside of, and it gives us access to and opportunities to support across the university differently. We're founded on the belief that students can be both students and entrepreneurs at the same time. were named an endowed institute by J. Orrin Edson, who was a local entrepreneur and had to drop out of school in order to continue his entrepreneurial endeavors. So it was important to him to be able to create an environment and to be able to influence a university to make sure that we're thinking about those things at all times. We have in our institute kind of a broad scope. So we focus on K-12, which is pipelining into universities. We also have a very deep college student portfolio, which is what Lauren's going to really share deeply with you. We also have faculty and staff entrepreneurial resources and tools. So we run lab to launch programs. How do we get bench and research out of a large tier 1 research university transferred out into the public for public consumption? And then we have a community outreach. So we know that when we're working with university students and youth and faculty, that the best way for us to build an ecosystem around the university is to engage in our community. So we run programs that actually launch out into the community so that when our students want to venture and launch their venture, they have a place to land right inside that ecosystem. And so we've opened the doors on that. The things that, as I mentioned before, we're a university of inclusion. We exist to remove barriers and points of any kind of barrier to access for any of our resources. And you'll see that over and over again in the resources that we're going to share with you today. So that just kind of sets the stage for large universities have lots of things, but the way we do this work is we keep it incredibly tight and human-centered, that the humans in this process are where we focus all of our resources and attention. And I think that shows when we get into our student work. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Lauren. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to hit one more. Sorry, that was mine too. Our K-12 outreach and programming is a really interesting factor. Not everybody does this, but we look at pipelining into a university of this size, and we look for collaborations and partnerships. That's much of how we do this work. So Verizon has been a very deep partner with us for over 10 years. And what their goals and our goals are in total alignment, that there are an underserved population of students, so Title I schools, where we really focus our attention. How do we get them thinking about design thinking, entrepreneurial mindset, all of those kind of pieces? How do we get those students in front of really deep technology? So with this partnership, we're able to it's a nationwide project. So you see us kind of all over the place. And we build these labs that are hands-on, interactive, all focusing on programmatic activity for students that are basically middle school at this stage. We have other resources for the earlier age, but this one's really important. We also embed in NACE, which is the National Association for Community Colleges of Entrepreneurship. So we work very tightly with those groups to provide opportunities to rural and minority students in particular. We build curriculum around this. We figure out new strategies and models and ways that we can help that K-12 community engage. So those kinds of pieces are really important to us. And with that, I am going to pass it off to Lauren.
Thank you, Linda. And so I have the privilege of directing our student outreach and engagement work as part of the Institute, really thinking critically about our college students, our prospective students, and also our partners within our community colleges for some of the projects and work that we do. I do know that a few of the participants in today's call are also on our team, so feel free to introduce yourself if you're part of ASU and want to showcase that. But one of the things I always like to say when we talk about our outreach and programming is there is a team behind it and there is years of work. So I've been part of the Institute since before it was a named institute for over a decade, thinking about how we can provide more access to our students, which includes partnerships and collaboration. How do we do this nationally? How do we do this within campus? How do we do this with the student groups that are on our campus? Thinking about the programming, making it student-led as much as possible, which I think is key, not only in helping students show up, but hearing from them directly and doing that kind of customer research and discovery on an ongoing basis, because it always changes and evolves of what people are needing and why they're looking to us as a partner in their college experience. Having curated resources, so really trying to make sure we have on-demand, flexible opportunities for students in addition to those live in-person or online events, understanding that some students, quite frankly, just do not have the time to meet us even when we're on campus, and are looking to learn in their own way on their own time, and we want to be a support for them too, as well as really focusing on those times where we can come together as a community, creating connections, encouraging establishing a sense of belonging to this work, kind of demystifying at times the word entrepreneur or entrepreneurial mindset, because even though we talk about that every day, many college students are hearing it for the first time when we're talking to them, and giving opportunities to network, whether that's the core focus of the event or activity or the indirect opportunity that comes with being part of a community. And I'll just really quickly highlight a few key programs that are offerings that we've had that we were able to focus on as part of this larger recognition that we're so grateful to have from GCEC. But we are a Blackstone Launchpad school, so we've been able to benefit from this idea of not just thinking about the entrepreneurial experience, but really what does it mean to encourage college students to think about their entrepreneurial skills and career exposure for their benefits. And one of the things that's unique about our ASU Blackstone Launchpad is we joined the network a little over a year ago and brought in our Maricopa community colleges, which is 10 different community colleges in the Phoenix metro area from the beginning of that partnership. So it does not just benefit our ASU students, it also benefits our community college students and creates a more vibrant community of students gaining access to resources and information. And we have a variety of programs I won't get into, but workshops, idea generation to mentorship to internship, which is a big difference with how this program is a unique asset from what we were already doing, and really working more closely with career services across our university, who was already a great partner, but now can be an even greater partner with what we're doing because we are thinking about that career exposure piece. We also are part of a network called Student Made. So we have our Student Made at ASU, which is an opportunity for a student management team to create marketplace, online, and in-person pop-up experiences for other students who have retail ventures or services that they want to have that experience with. So we've had this program for a little over a year now, and it solved an issue for us by joining a network because we were able to more quickly have an online marketplace than we would have otherwise, and have had thousands of dollars in sales to benefit students really directly. And what's great about this is there are students running the show. So we work directly with a team of 7 students who are building their own portfolio, but also being able to say, this is what's meaningful to us as they move that marketplace forward. So if any of you are wanting to shop local for Arizona at any point, Student Made at ASU is a great resource for that. And then we have other signature programs. Our Venture Doubles program that has always provided support to students, and since 2016 has grown to serve over 1,000 ventures and awarded over $400,000 just in the last academic year. What's notable about this is we're always removing those access entry point barriers. So how do you join this program? How do you be part of a community? How do you, if you can clearly express an idea you want to work on, how do you get support being part of a community at any stage? If you're wondering why it's Venture Devils, we are the Sun Devils at ASU. So it's very branded as part of the affinity piece back to the university of not only should you have pride in your university, but you should also have pride in your ideas and the support that you get as a student who wants to be an entrepreneur, whether that's a shorter term project or something that you see for yourself as you get closer to graduation. We have a residential space on our downtown Phoenix campus that on the first floor has a co-working space as well as community event space that is built with students first in mind. We have other kind of what we call place-based innovation spaces, but Fusion and First is really critical because it is part of a direct student experience, and it has great partners, including with our arts college, that allow us to kind of uniquely serve students in a very focused way around arts entrepreneurship and creativity, with that being kind of the center of the conversation. And as I mentioned before, these training and development resources that we've created that are on demand, available to students and to our broader community, that are trusted resources to help them figure out what it means to pitch, what it means to register their business, some of those things in a way that is hopefully a good trusted starting point to allow them to engage with information however they would like to virtually, as well as build connections and confidence in the resources available through our different programs. And that's one of the key ways that whether we have a program forever or for a little while, we can glean knowledge off of it and make it really meaningful to always advance the student experience. And we are updating those regularly so that they don't get too out of date, because we know information changes quickly. And then the other thing I will note as we talk about this, because we are a large university, we have put a lot of work into developing awareness campaigns. Often we are the best kept secret at the university because there are so many great resources, and it almost feels too good to be true to have so much of this available to you as a student. So we have to go to classes, we have to be on campus, and not just one. ASU has 4 campuses alone across the Phoenix metro area. So how are we making sure as an institute that we're serving everyone, whether or not it's events we're hosting or just being really direct in the resources and program opportunities available to students? And one of the strategies around this as we've built it out has been really saying we need to get those large enrollment classes, because for our university and the size of scope, we have to meet as many people at once as possible. So that's part of what we do in that campaign timeframe. Every September and every February, that works for us because it's the cadence of our university. But identifying the times where students really need to hear this resource is available, and following through with regular collaborations on campus, as well as dedicated programming with student identity and other groups to make it meaningful. And so really, I'll let Linda end it, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Lauren. That was an amazing overview. We have a lot of things going. Our big driving pieces that really we focus on all the time is empowering all people through entrepreneurship and innovation to collaboratively build and sustain a more equitable future, and also to advance the inclusion of entrepreneurship at the local, national, and global scale by increasing access for all. So really, access and inclusion for our university is at the core. And when you have a large university, you can still do this work and make it feel really personal and connected. So thank you so much, Jeff. We're going to pass it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda and Lauren. A lot of amazing stuff going on there. No big surprise. You guys are really killing it. I appreciate that. I do encourage our audience to continue, as we've seen started already, some dialogue in the chat, as well as saving questions you might have, and we'll have a chance for you to ask those verbally towards the end of the session. So please engage as much as you want to in the chat while we're going here. But next up, we're going to stick with our Sun Belt theme and go down to Florida. I'm happy to introduce Daniel James Scott of Stetson University. Over to you, Daniel.
Thanks, Jeff. And thanks to Holly and Nadine as well for inviting us out to do this. I think this is really wonderful. Linda and Lauren, having spent most of my career in large public institutions, what you're doing is amazing. So I can't thank you enough for sharing. I'm certainly... my ego is low enough that I'm willing to steal as much as I possibly can. So I can't wait to get my hands on that deck. That's really wonderful. So for those of you that think Stetson University is in Texas, that's what I thought. And so no, we're actually in DeLand, Florida as our primary campus. It's halfway between Orlando and Daytona, which is where I assume at least some of your students will be spending a week this month. We also have a campus in Gulfport, Florida, which is kind of south of St. Petersburg, if you've ever been to that side of Tampa Bay. And then we have a campus in Tampa, Florida. We're essentially a very famous law school with a small private liberal arts college that has 3 schools attached to it. Arts and science, music, and business. Business is actually where we're located. And if you're thinking, if this school is so famous, how come I've never heard of it? Pretty much everybody that's an attorney that was brought into the current administration, including the U.S. Attorney General, is a Stetson alumni. So not a political statement, more just we produce an awful lot of attorneys. So we were the first business school in the state of Florida, so we've been around for quite a long time. However, the Joseph C. Prince Entrepreneurship Program, which is a program, not a center, in the business school, is only, our major has only been around for about 9 years, and we rely really heavily on co-curriculars to add value to that academic program. We do have a co-working space, and that was actually developed and designed by our students, which you may be thinking, was that a challenge? No, they're so much better at doing this. As a matter of fact, when I got to this school, the faculty kind of put together a space that had a lot of beanbag chairs and things that they thought were cool. Being older, and the students are like, no, we actually need workspaces and we need technology. And so it's a really great, very functional space, and we're very proud of it. We operate under 4 pillars: leadership, problem solving, storytelling, and value creation. Our big goal is to kind of meet the students where they're at and let them go where they want to go. And then while we're doing that, add as many lines to their resume as possible. Our students developed our philosophy, and we are an innovation program. We just kind of deal in entrepreneurship periodically, and I'll talk about that in a second. And their philosophy is innovation is applied kindness. And if you like it, steal it, please. I think it's the best thing I've ever heard. So innovation is applied kindness. Our faculty are all serial entrepreneurs. We've successfully exited 6 companies, listed 4 times in the Inc. 5000, won 2 U.S. Small Business Advocacy Awards. We've invested in dozens of companies as angels and as venture capitalists. And the curriculum really represents the operator mentality. Students must participate in experiential learning courses in entrepreneurial leadership.
So Daniel, sorry to interrupt you. I can't see your slides. Are you sharing slides?
I don't have any, Jeff.
Oh, I apologize for interrupting. Keep going.
No
I'm enjoying
worries.
what you're saying. I just wanted to make sure. My bad.
So our students, our entire curriculum is experiential, and they have to participate in courses in entrepreneurial leadership, creative problem solving, corporate innovation, entrepreneurial innovation, social entrepreneurship, venture capital, and venture scaling. To really flesh those out, where students, we don't have tracks in our undergraduate program. So to flesh that out, we use co-curriculars. So with our co-curriculars, we reached 1 out of every 8 undergraduate students across campus over the course of the last year. We have a CEO club, which is the largest business club on campus. Our club leader won CEO Club Leader of the Year if you were at that conference in Tampa. We have 3 immersive signature programs where students can really deep dive if they want to pursue careers. The first is a Prince Entrepreneurs program, where that's our competition team, but also we really do try to help run that as an accelerator so students are building their businesses. We have our Hatter Angel Network analysts. And so we actually have an alumni angel network that's tied to Stetson University, and our students can actually join as analysts and get a really good sense of what that career might look like. As a matter of fact, they're down in Miami, Florida this week at the Florida Venture Forum conference, networking and doing due diligence on a number of companies that we're looking at potentially investing in. And then our third signature program is called Hat Mob. It's a leadership development and research program. That's our newest one. It's 100% student developed. That's what they wanted to spend their time on, and we're really thrilled that they're helping us build these co-curriculars. We also have a speaker series, pitch competitions, hands-on workshops. We have a thing called Opportunity School that we taught, where students can go from, I don't have an idea, to how can I assess anything I want to do in my life, which is really fantastic. We worked with the music school on a program to help folks that are just really practicing their instruments, 24 hours a day, to figure out what their career might look like after school. And then we're partnering on a county-funded incubator program near campus. So you might be thinking, okay, you said lines on resumes. What are those? I don't know if ASU does this or not, Linda, but we joined recently the Sigma Nu Tau Honor Society. I think that's really great. There are students that we've encountered that just don't want to pitch, or that's not necessarily the thing that's going to build their resume. And so we found this to be a really wonderful tool to reward students for academic excellence, but not necessarily going out and raising money per se. We've actually literally had already stole from ASU because we started doing digital badging for our signature programs. Literally stole that from Linda. We do have leadership and employee roles like Lauren was talking about. I think that's critically important to have students, both compensated and uncompensated, really driving the decisions of the programs. And then on and off campus competitions and conferences. We go to everything we're invited to. So students can apply to anything, and we'll commit to them that we'll travel with them. And I think that's kind of a unique thing for a liberal arts school. One of the things that I'm most proud of, and maybe something that we can spin into, Jeff, after, is kind of how do we build diversity in the program? Because I think that's it's become a really important thing for us. Our undergraduate population is 50% white. Our entrepreneurship teaching faculty is 100% white, and our angel network is about the same. And then if you look at our direct administration lineage, it's 100% white, and most of those folks are male. However, 57% of our entrepreneurship majors are non-white, non-male. And I don't want to take any credit for that. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the students saying, if innovation is applied kindness, one way we can innovate is helping each other. We don't always have to look around and say the adults in the room are the ones that are going to be responsible. We'll take core responsibility for that. A couple more statistics. 76% of our aggregate pitch competition participants are non-white, non-male. 77% of our cross-disciplinary signature programs are non-white, non-male. 80% of our entrepreneurship programs, student labor, non-white, non-male. And this is the one that still blows my mind. 100% of our cash winnings, either grants, pitch competitions, etc., we call it the non-dilutive capital raises, have come from businesses that were started by non-white, non-male entrepreneurship students. So really thrilled about that. And that's, I think, the power of student engagement is being able to build that level of plurality and inclusion. I'll hand it back to you, Jeff.
Daniel, that is very impressive. And I know if some of your law school alumni had their say, we wouldn't even be able to talk about that, I'm guessing. But I'll give you credit for doing that, and sorry to dip into that. But I will say, you know, how do you get that kind of inclusivity in your program when the overall university maybe doesn't share the same metrics that you do?
Yeah, well, so Holly knows this. I felt really uncomfortable accepting this award, and probably Linda or Lauren, if you accepted yours, you probably felt a little odd too, because this is really a student award. Y'all were fantastic and took me out and kind of filmed a little video out in the hallway of like, what does this award mean? I'm like, I don't know. I got to ask the students, because it's really their award. So the two students that we've relied on most heavily, one, they're both female and both non-Caucasian. And what they've decided to do amongst them is to solve problems. And we've tried to provide as much framework as possible to say, listen, we don't know everything, and we're definitely going to have gaps. I don't speak Spanish, for example, but with AI and with other tools, this student can actually take core curriculum that we're looking at launching in our incubator and make it be Spanish. But then she started diving deeper and going, well, why can't I also make it in Russian, right? Why can't I also make it in French? Why can't I do a whole bunch of other stuff that's really interesting that I wouldn't necessarily think about, because it's not necessarily the world in which I live. I think it's also helpful to, I'm sure most of you experience this, but it's very tough to get the word out about our programs to the rest of campus. And students are just incredibly gifted at that. If it was up to me, I'd be sending a lot of emails and making students meet with me. They like to go meet other students where they're at, and they had come to the conclusion that the freshman seminars were really a great place. And they dug in their heels and said, we're going to find everybody who teaches one of these things, and we're going to talk in their class. And if you can imagine two very young, very energetic women coming into a classroom saying, be like us and go do this, it might encourage somebody who wouldn't normally follow that path to go, at least there's a couple of people that care about me here on campus. And with that, I'm gonna leave it, because I think Linda and Lauren probably have some really fantastic information to share about that too.
I think that's great. I'll echo that, by the way, that we use students tremendously for marketing, right? We use them for a lot of different roles in designing and delivering our programs. But one of the things, like you just mentioned, marketing, I think there's maybe nothing more powerful than having a near peer walk into a classroom with the professor's permission and give that kind of a testimonial, is like, hey, join this thing that I'm a part of. So I encourage anybody to try that out. Sometimes you have to beg those faculty members for that, 2 minutes or whatever it might be, but it can pay off. Linda, Lauren, and I think you said nobody can steal anything from you here because you're giving it all away. So any comments on what we were just talking about there?
Well, that's some amazing, absolutely amazing work, Daniel, though, really, truly. And I think, and I would love Lauren maybe to even weigh in on, we had, a couple of programs, our Student Catalyst program, we've had first year fellows programs, things that try to personalize because of the size of this university, it is incredibly important to for that peer piece to happen and to happen authentically, and not to make it feel like we're orchestrating conversations and doing all this weird puppeteering in the background. Lauren, can you share a little bit about how, like, especially with Catalyst, like how you're able to have them build the relationships and have the students kind of take that first step?
Absolutely. And we found, I think, in some ways, the championship and connection is so vital, and it's really authentic, which is really exciting too. So whether it's something that is a paid role, which we do try to, if a student is being treated as a student employee and relied upon in that way, we do try to make sure we're honoring that commitment in their time. Or for some of those who are really voluntarily doing this, how do we provide them enough information that they feel confident they're giving accurate next steps and guidance, so that it doesn't feel like they had a great conversation and they don't know where to go with it, that they're still deeply connected to share their own experience, but also able to say, okay, now that you're asking questions I don't know the answer to, maybe we can guide back to also a responsive team that helps support this work and is here for you. Like, our jobs are to serve the students and kind of be in that way. We have found that sometimes students are less interested in advice and more interested in kind of that community piece or encouragement from their coworkers and their colleagues and their peers. And so to me, it's a really good day when we have something like a student competition and they all leave congratulating each other regardless of the outcome, versus only talking about their own success or maybe perceived failure, right? And so we have certainly worked through student employment options and different ways to do it. And I think having specific projects that they feel like they can totally own or at least direct makes a huge difference in the value of the work they feel like they're doing, and not only the impact it makes right now, but how they see it connecting to some of their future goals also.
I would love to add real quick for that. Lauren has done an incredible job at removing barriers for students to access this work. So just like our Venture Devils program, which is our signature student competition, there is no application anymore for that program. It's literally join our community. And so we gather as many as we can. And then we have plenty of time inside their journey where they're meeting with mentors, they're developing their pitch competitions, they're building websites, and then they're pitching for funding. But it's not, the funding should be the beginning of the journey, right? It's not an end. So we want to make sure that when we join them, you know, we used to watch these big presentations at the end with the big checks. And when somebody didn't win their category, we would see students leave, right? And it's like, my dream was to keep everybody in the room cheering for every single award that was going up, whether they won or not, and that they were there for the student community. And that's what's happening now, because Lauren's really shifted that narrative around it being a means to an end, but a way to join community and build community for the students.
Wow, that's impressive. Got a question in the chat around compensation. You know, we've seen this, like some students are on the payroll, others aren't. Maybe they're club leaders or otherwise volunteers. How do you manage the differences there? And this could go to either of the two universities.
Yeah, I started to answer the question in the chat, so I'm happy to expand as a start. We do think paid internships are important. We have offered both. So in previous years, we partnered with one of our academic colleges to offer a 4-credit summer part-time experience. Last year, we had a generous donation that allowed us to work with local companies to actually offer a paid internship. The numbers difference for student interest was pretty staggering, but also it allowed students to more meaningfully make it the priority of their summer versus some of the part-time kind of 4-credit opportunities we had been able to offer before. And then for student employment, we certainly have looked at varieties of compensation. So we've done hourly student work, we've done student stipends, we have colleagues in the university that have similar roles that might be doing student scholarships. A lot of it depends on just kind of what the scope is and hearing from students of like what works for them. We find right now that hourly positions that we can budget for properly are much better for them saying, I've really made this time commitment this week, than the stipend. So even though the stipend was or easier from a payroll perspective. We found that that hourly work not only reflects the real world often a little bit more, but also has more of a back and forth from the supervisors supporting them. And certainly people do volunteer and go above and beyond too. We don't want everything to be paid, but many of our students, if they're not working on their own idea, they are looking for those resources. So we try to make it a budget priority to be able to offer them.
If I could add real quick, the other side of this is just as important from the student side to the business side, that we're an entrepreneurship institute. So we're lining up startups, we're lining up businesses to be the mentor, the employer for these students for this set amount of time. And it's just as important for us to make sure that those employers know how to be good employers for interns. These are short-term projects. We need to get students in, they need to get ramped up, they need to contribute and feel that they're contributing to that startup or to that business. And we need the business to take it seriously. And what happens is, I think almost more so on the business side, to have an unpaid intern feels more like go get me coffee type of experience, as opposed to you are doing real work contributing to the bottom line of this company. And the way we shifted this too is we actually do reimbursements to the businesses. They have to pay the students, put them on payroll, and then we reimburse that back. And so that's hard for businesses, especially startups. And this might be the business's first employees ever. And so we have to teach them all that stuff. And it's really powerful though, because when we can get them on the payroll, there is, and we don't have great data yet, but I know in my heart, having been a startup for many, many times, that if they're in the system, they're more likely to be continued on as employees when it's done. And we did see some good success in our students staying with those startups after the fact, because they're already in the systems. It's super easy. It's just the next paycheck, the next payroll. So those are things to consider too. It's a two-way and should always be thought about as a two-way street. It's not just for the students.
I'll just chime in real quick to say our school mandates an internship of every student. As a matter of fact, we have something called ELRs, which is experiential learning requirements. So it is a little bit frowned upon for us to get involved in paid internships. But we do have a team of hourly compensated, as Lauren was saying, project-based undergraduate students, and we do sponsor a graduate student who's going through our MBA program that actually typically runs a lot of programming and other things that's needed.
So I'm going to shift gears a little bit in terms of not just about students getting experience with startup type things, but students involved in your program, right? In terms of leading and being a part of your team, helping to deliver programs or leading student clubs. I suspect that many of you have had the same experience that I've had, where you have amazing students one year, and then maybe the next year it's not quite as much. Or you have the succession planning can become a challenge when your team turns over every couple of years. Do you have any advice for anyone here on the call of how do you maintain high quality student leaders kind of working in your program?
Yeah, Jeff, I really appreciate that question. It's a known predictable problem, right? And so some of this is encouraging those great student leaders to be thinking about their legacy, to be documenting processes, to be recruiting early and often with a great experience that encourages others to be part of a community in a way that allows them to move on, whether it's because of graduation or because of other involvement opportunities that they want to have. And so all of that is kind of embedded in our best practices, along with making sure the things we're asking students to do, they feel like they have ownership of in a way that benefits them, not just now, but also in the future. And understanding that this is our job, right? Like, so sometimes we are the first employer for these students. And so our responsibility towards training, development, support, whether it's direct supervision or indirect support of some of our student groups on campus, understanding that at our core, we're we're a university, we're in education. Part of our job is to support that and really help them think more broadly about not just what they're wanting to achieve, but how they can leave that behind in a way that helps minimize. It doesn't completely resolve it, but maybe minimize those pains of that transition piece. And we see a lot when students feel ownership that they're much more likely to start talking about us and talking with us about those questions rather than us bringing it up to them. And that's when we, I think, feel a little more confident that the team's in a good position for that transition.
I don't know that I have much to add other than I'm going through this at the moment. And I would just say, I try to take the stress off the students. I don't expect them to be really great at hiring yet. They're 20, right? So I realize that we have to step in, and I try to kind of bifurcate what's really their responsibility and what can I help with. And I can help identify talent better than they can. If they just pick somebody, it's going to be, oh, my friend graduates in another semester, and then they'll take it over, and then I'm ended up holding the bag. But if I can help develop that from a freshman level or a sophomore level, I find that to be tremendously helpful. It's a place that I can help provide agency to the students, help build their confidence, allow them the flexibility to go, you can do these things, I have your back, and you have my checkbook. So that might be my only kind of feedback there, is maybe the students aren't necessarily best at picking their replacements. That's a good place that you can provide counsel and step in a bit.
Good advice. I feel that. Another dynamic that I've seen and I've heard other universities have, some of the club culture on campuses can be very based on exclusivity. And that I heard a lot of you talk about, like, we want our program to be open to everyone. I have seen two dynamics at my school, and I want to see if you guys see this too. One is, you'll have an entrepreneurship related club that decides they really want to be elite or somehow select certain students and not select others. That can certainly be a problem. And then another dynamic is sometimes a group of students will create their own club that might overlap in different ways, where we want to applaud their entrepreneurial spirit. It can also create some real challenges with who's doing what, and do we really need a new organization to do this thing? Have you guys seen either of those dynamics? Anything you want to comment on there?
Yeah, I'll bring that up because we brought in the honors program, as I had mentioned, and one of the requirements of that program is to have a club, have an honors club, and we decided no, not going to work for us. We're just not big enough to manage two clubs, so we rolled it into our entrepreneur club. I might also say I think there's ways of looking at things that can be tremendously helpful. And one way we look at entrepreneurship on our campus is as a career center for 80% of the students. So the university needs a career center so they can do placements and they can rank and meet ACSB requirements, right? I don't care about any of that stuff, frankly. What I do care about is the students feel confident that they can go explore what they want to do. And that could be any number of things. It could be grad school, it could be a freelancer, it could be a conglomerator, it could be an investor, it could be an entrepreneur, it could be a small business owner. We want to be there to kind of support them. And the club's really taken a lead role on that to say, if you're looking to have some control over your career in the future, this is the place to land. And so we don't have to worry so much about, is it inclusive? Is it not? It's much, and the signature program helps because that's our kind of exclusive component of that. But I think the best way to do it is to be as inclusive as possible. But you got to take a philosophy where the students feel like they can help other students. I believe that.
I will say, I think at ASU, we had mentioned our charter as part of the conversation. Our student organization and leadership office has very specific policies and requirements of what it means to be a student body, like student organization and member. And so there are some student groups that can be a little bit more restrictive, but for the majority, if you are not like a fraternity or sorority or in a few other spaces like an honor society, it makes sense they have those requirements. By and large, they have to be as accessible as possible. And so that's where one of the pieces that our greater charter helps reinforce some of these value points for us. And so if any of you are working with student groups that constantly are saying we need to be exclusionary and want to talk to people in our office about where we talk about the membership body and some of that, happy to share some of those policies that we don't directly manage, but help reinforce the culture that collectively we care about. For our university, student groups are required to have a faculty advisor. And so because of the position of the institute being primarily staff, we play an influence role, but not the direct role of the advisor, which means we have even less control over it, but we can show up in ways that are collaborative or helpful. And often, kind of the second point of the question of, students may be doing things that already are happening or doing them in different ways. We're a very large place, so that's going to happen anytime. What we found to be most helpful is making sure that we're showing up to what they're doing, providing information about other resources, because half the time they did it because they didn't know it already existed. And then if they are trying to do something completely differently, also being able to be okay with that as an opportunity to then say, great, let's see what you learn and let's continue to innovate together. I think we know that while we have a lot of best practices and influence in this space, we also want student ingenuity to be a key part of it. And when they throw a career experience, sometimes they get a lot more people there. So how can we be part of that rather than telling them, no, we can only do it this one way? So that's just kind of some of the pieces that come together for us.
Great. We'll have time for a couple more questions, and I'm going to take one that Eric Miller from Colorado has put in the chat here. And basically, out of all the things you do, which both schools have quite a bit, is there one that you would pick out that is most impactful? And I'll ask Daniel to go first on this. Is there one thing out of all the stuff that you mentioned that you think is most impactful that our audience here can learn about?
I would be hard pressed to name one program, but if I can tweak that a little bit and say one philosophy, there's one that we've been rolling out over the last year that I'm really excited about. It helps our advisory board, it helps our other faculty, it helps our students when they're mentoring each other. And that is, don't subjectively help the concept, objectively help the person. So we've all been in that scenario. A student walks into your office and they lay a concept on your desk and they go, well, what do you think? And we are training ourselves at this very moment to not respond and to try to create an objective question. And by that, I mean a what question that can be followed by a how question. So can I get this person from point A to point B, not what do I think about, subjectively about their thing. And I'll be honest with you, I've been wrong about so many things that is probably not super helpful anyway. But it's been really impactful with our students, who I'm sure all of us have been in the rooms when there's a pitch competition and the students raise their hand and go, well, I don't like it, right? And they give like the non-constructive, non-helpful, like, I just don't think this is a really great, thing to do. And that's not helpful. It's discouraging. It's not productive. And I think we're trying to move into how can we be more constructive, more helpful. And it's led to our students developing 12 different resources, and they're building more every day of how do we change and restructure the conversation into some sort of objective measure, starting with, first thing you should be asking yourself about your company is nothing about your concept. It's like, where do you want to be in 3 years, right? It's like an interview question. That's much easier because when they give you an answer, you can say, okay, so how are you planning on doing it? How can I help? It leads to a bunch of really robust how questions. So sorry for tweaking the question, but I think that's helpful.
That was a great contribution. Thank you. Linda or Lauren?
There's so many, and I would kind of tag on a little bit of what Daniel's saying is that we really, all of our programming has a deep connection to mentorship, and that mentorship looks different, across the board. But one thing that is very true is that we do the same thing, Daniel. We really focus on, this is a student growth opportunity, and it has to be a safe space, and they need to feel like whatever idea they have has some merit moving forward. And it may not be our cup of tea. It might, the only thing we police for is legality, and then anything else is fair game. Like we, bring it on. And our mentors now are, have to adopt that same understanding. And the relationships that they build through the mentorship pieces that are embedded in our work, they're not adjacent to or outside of, and our mentors look all different. It's an interesting mix, but we're kind of really using that as a center point to our entire institute. So it used to be that our mentors lived inside of our Venture Devil program, and that's where they were. But we realize that's ineffective and inefficient. And those mentors now sit at the center and core of everything our institute does, so that when our community team needs mentors, they pull from there. When our faculty members need mentors, they pull from there. So the mentorship piece for us has been a powerful repositioning, and that sends a message that people's lived experience, whatever that is, whether they've failed at a bunch of businesses or they've been super successful, all of that matters. And it matters to let students into that experience so that they can start to understand and feel themselves centered in that piece too. So I would tag on to that. That is probably my favorite element. We have so many programs, but that is probably the piece that I think about having the most lasting positive influence on every student and every adult, every human, doesn't matter, every learner in our system. It's that kind of acceptance.
Thank you for that. So as we get here towards the end, I'll just ask kind of a final question for both institutions. And it's, any last words, last advice, something that you want to share, given your last opportunity here that our audience can take away and maybe use at their school. And Linda, we'll let you go first on this one.
Sure, thank you. I think the thing that my journey inside of the Institute has really led me to understand is repositioning the idea of access to being first and foremost, removing, like, consciously, intentionally looking at barriers. Where are you stopping students from engaging, where you realize it or not? And I'm just going to go out on a limb and say they're all false. They're false barriers that we just inherit and that seem institutional, but they really don't have to be there. So like the fact that we changed application processes to joining processes. And then you deal with the ramifications of that inside the program. But I just feel like that's something, if you remember one thing that I said today, it's to open those doors as much as you can and invite students, faculty, your entire community, and because you're in control of creating an ecosystem that allow people to look way into the future and to help themselves in the future and the friends and families. And it's a powerful, powerful position you're in. And sometimes it feels like you're burdened, or you have a small team, or you don't have enough money. What you do have is influence, and you have acceptance. And I think that for me has been the biggest part of my journey, and something that I'm super proud of for our university.
Thank you. Daniel.
Yeah, that was so good. I almost don't want to follow. I think empowerment's kind of been a place that we've been struggling with and really have wanted to make a difference. And we've really focused on innovation, which is kind of making things better. And we investigate a lot of where innovation could come from, where problems come from. And a lot of it, according to Seth Godin, which is really great, is somebody created a convenience for themselves that created an inconvenience for a greater number of people. And so we all do that inherently. It's a really great place to start with students. So if you want to empower them, you can say, what's not working? What is creating an inconvenience for you here on campus or here in the school or here in the program? And I empower you. Get down on one knee, I'll knight you. Let's go ahead and fix it. You're now the boss of this. And I've kind of found that that's really great, and the club could be viewed that way too, right? It's like, what's not going right here, and it's yours. Go figure it out. I have you. You can't fall through the net here. Everything's safe. So maybe consider that, and if you can empower more students, then you have more power yourself to get them to do the things that they should be doing anyway. So that would be me trying to follow Linda is not going to work, Jeff.
Well, a lot of great stuff. I hope our audience will join me in thanking our panelists, Linda, Lauren. Sorry we didn't have Bailey, but we loved having Lauren and Daniel as well. Thank you, all three of you, for being a part of this and sharing. And congratulations on your well-deserved award this year for student engagement and leadership. Just to close us out, I do want to once again encourage all GCEC members to join and be active on our Slack workspace. I've been a part of a few really robust conversations there. It's a great way to connect with each other in between these sorts of webinars and annual conferences and things like that. I've seen some people really dig deep and sharing with each other there. So I encourage you to do that. That is one of the things that's a benefit to members only. So join there, and you can see Holly's email address if you're not a member, or if you are a member and want to join the Slack channel, Holly can help you get set up there. And some other new things going on with GCEC. We do have affinity groups by region to help you connect with people maybe geographically close to you. The new website has been launched. I think Nadine put a link in the chat, so please check it out. There's a lot of new things going up there, and it's a work in progress. So I think members will continue to see more benefit from the actual website. And we hope we'll see people at the conference in Calgary, and I think it's in October. And our next webinar, which will be close to 1 month from today, March 28th, where we'll hear from another award-winning group on contributions to venture creation. We have the University of Toronto and the University of Chicago. So thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks again to our panelists, and we look forward to seeing all of you at our next GCEC event.
Thank you.